Everybody, I'm Dave Aronson. My profile mentions Mead, and it might not fit with the topic of the conference, but it's sort of appropriate to the location. So tonight I'll tell you about it, but sorry I don't have any samples to give out. You've probably heard of Mead, a wine-like drink made from fermented honey. But what do you know about it? Most people think it was invented by the Vikings, who, by the way, did not wear horns on their helmets. But anyway, no. The earliest evidence we have of mead actually comes from China, and about 9,000 years ago. It's certainly much older than that. One common estimate is that it's about 35,000 years ago old, invented by some of the earliest humans in Africa, and the knowledge went along with humanity as it spread. By contrast, the Viking Age is usually described as about 793 to 1066, very much latecomers to mead. Mead has been brewed everywhere that some kind of sufficiently productive honeybees are native, and by the Viking Age that included all over Europe, Asia, Africa, and even Central America. The list from the title slide is just a small sampling of cultures with their own particular varieties of mead, or mention of it from ancient times, from an earlier full-length version of this talk. The next myth I'd like to bust is that since it's made from honey, it's got to be cloyingly sweet and taste mainly of honey, right? Of course not. The mass-market meaderies are quite happy to cater to that misconception, but good mead can have an amazing variety of flavors. The sweetness can range from cloyingly sweet down to absolutely bone dry. All kinds of flavorings can be added, and the alcohol strength can range from negligible to about 20%. Also, different kinds of honey can make the mead taste different. So with all these different cultures making mead, you'd think some of them would have written down how they figured it out, right? But they probably hadn't invented writing yet. So we have no definitive answers, but lots of guesses, mostly that it happened by accident. The main theory is that a hunter-gatherer topped off a water skin from a beehive he found, just to take advantage of the honey. I prefer the theory that rain fell into a broken beehive, possibly happening millions of times before there even were humans. Either way, that diluted the honey enough to let it ferment as soon as wild yeast fell in, or there may have already been some in the honey. So how does one actually make mead on purpose? To make a 1 liter batch of mead at home, you will need about a quarter liter of honey, about 3/4 of a liter of water, 2 1-liter jars, one at the start, one at the end, a piece of cloth, an elastic band or bit of string to secure that, and a bit of yeast. Bread yeast is fine. You don't have to use brewing yeast, which is harder to find. Mix the ingredients all together in one jar. Secure the cloth over the jar's mouth and put it somewhere out of direct sunlight. Somewhere from a couple hours to a couple days later, the mead should start bubbling. Sometime from a couple weeks to a couple months later, it'll stop bubbling and ta-da, you've got mead, though with a thick layer of yeast at the bottom. Pour off the mead into the other jar, trying to get as little yeast as possible. It's harmless, just doesn't taste good. And enjoy. It'll probably be somewhere around 12% alcohol by volume and semi-sweet. You can add whatever you want for more flavor, like spices or fruit, and it can be drunk any way you like it. Warmed, chilled, or whatever, out of any vessel you like, especially, of course, the kind of horns the Vikings actually did use.